Says we're live, but if you're watching this, you're watching the replay. Happy Monday, replay watchers. I hope you had a good Monday. Hope you had a good weekend too. So I think this will fall in as maybe like Mustache Talk episode 8. And I thought I would just hop on here for a real impromptu, take any questions if anybody has any. But I wanted to give some shout outs. And definitely, I got to say thank you to Toffer and the Marine Rapper. I love the Patriot. I've been following Topher for a while, and he had been putting out some samples, so I was super excited when it came up on iTunes, and I got it, been listening to it, and I took some screenshots. I think it was playing in my truck. He shared them out because I shared them to my story. So I wanted to try out the thing with Reels, where, you know, you basically go like this and you change it up a little bit, you know. So I thought I'd give it a try. My thing is mustaches, right? You know, so I was like, well, I'm going to do up a mustache anyways. I'm going to use some Death Grip products. Maybe I could tie the two together, and I'll grab his song, because for a little while, whenever I would put out a Reels, I could not find that song. So I was a little frustrated, and then all of a sudden it popped back up, and I said, well, you know, I'll give it a shot. So I did a quick one, and he didn't notice. So I did another one, and I did a little bit longer. I showed the shaving soap from Death Grip. I did the sudden death, did my mustache up, and then, of course, I showed off my first place national ribbon. I mean, who wouldn't do that if you had one? And, you know, I tagged him in it, and I hadn't heard anything, and I was talking back and forth with Death Grip, and Death Grip sent me a screenshot from their Instagram messages, and they had messaged Topher and said, hey, man, this dude is a huge fan of yours, and he loves your music, and he put together these reels, and if you could at least comment. So I don't know if that was the straw that broke the camel's back, but next thing I know, I logged in like an hour later, and Topher had reshared my reel on his page, exposing me to, he has 118,000 followers, and I was trying to keep up with how many likes were going through, and it went from like 1,000 to 1,200 to 1,500 to like 1,800 to 2,000 every time I was refreshing it. And then I think I checked it earlier, was at like 7,000. And so I tagged the Marine Rapper as well, who's featured in the Patriot. So if you haven't heard the song, it's a great song. I know I shared it like 4 times in my story. It's, of course, the reel I have. It's available on iTunes. So then the Marine Rapper also shares it out. He's got 86,000 followers. So I'm like, like I just got asked to prom by Joey, or Johnny, the dreamy quarterback, right? So it was my appreciation to Topher and the Marine Rapper for that, because it was like my little tribute, my mustache thing I do. Why not pick their song? I love the song. It was amazing, and then they reposted it, and it's been awesome. So this is like a Mustache Talk episode 8. Usually I try to come up with some kind of criteria, like I'm going to cover these topics, or I'm going to do this shaping. But I thought I would do an impromptu one, and anybody who jumps in here, if you had like a question to me, if you're wondering, to show my appreciation for what those guys did by giving me that exposure, I made this. This is the first time I've ever made this mustache like this, you know, the thick, fanned out. And I decided if I ever make this again, I'm going to officially call it the Patriot after Topher and the Marine Rapper. So what I use today is Can You Handlebar Primary. And anybody who hasn't seen any of my other stuff, I use the primary, which is a medium wax. You heat it up with a hairdryer right over top, scrape it out, and I put it through, and I get the basic shape. I'll run a comb through, spread the wax, and then I step back and I let the wax come back to that room temperature consistency, so it's more firm. After about 10 minutes, I'll run a comb through. I heat up the Can You Handlebar secondary, which is a strong wax, and I go back through and I put some on, give it a basic shape, let it set for a couple seconds, and I put on another thick amount. And as I'm doing it, I'm squeezing. I like to take my hand, and as I'm shaping the mustache and I'm putting the wax in, I use my thumb underneath and my fingers up top to not only flatten it, but I'm feeling for what I call knots. So what I'm trying to do, as you can see, is the hairs are aligned like this. And some of the guys, they do like a twisting or they'll curl it, which causes the hair to kind of do this. So I'm trying to fill for those knots on the bottom side because I want all the hairs to be in line. It's a whole lot easier to run a comb through too. So that's basically what I did. I went through and I wanted a nice gradual slope with little points down at the end. And I call this the Patriot after Topher and the Marine Wrapper. So, you know, if you're new to some of my videos, one of the things I would recommend if you want to grow a big mustache, and this is my first beyond about a month of no trimming, is you got to commit to it. Like my middle hairs through here run all the way down here, so they come all the way down here. So if I'm not putting my fingers in like this, spreading it and holding it up to eat, I will chew on hairs. So you got to be committed. It took me about 5.5 months before these hairs were long enough they didn't hang over my mouth. I could use wax to put them in. And one of the methods I talk about is a pinch and slide. So once I get a little wax on, I'll then pull a little tension and I pinch through and I kind of like slide. And then I just kind of slide like that. From the side, you can see it's very flat, but I like the way this looks versus trying to do, like the one I did yesterday, I kind of did a barrel shaping on it where I made like a cone on the tips and then bent it over. I like this a whole lot better, but I use different waxes for different mustaches. So I don't have necessarily a favorite. I have like this one I used Can You Handlebar. Yesterday it was Death Grip Sudden Death. There's another mustache I did. I named the Deuces after 2 deuces. Guy's got an amazing mustache. I use Firehouse wax for it. And it's a lot of people ask me, well, what's your favorite? If we go out to eat and you ask me what you should eat, I don't know. I know what I like. I could tell you have the BLT, but you hate BLTs. It's just one of those things. Does anybody have any questions? So I know it'll be backwards, but for some of you who might have missed it in the quick reel, this is my first place, my first ever national competition I ever competed in. So this is the Beer Team USA 2020 handlebar category first place. They're having their next competition, national competition in Scranton, Pennsylvania in September. And then I wound up winning Natural and Style for the West Coast Classic out of San Francisco. It was an online competition. But I'm going to try to go out there for 2022, go out to San Francisco. The hard part is with a natural mustache, and anybody who's interested in, say, competing, most of them will have some kind of guidelines. Like if you're going to be in a mustache sorry, it paused, got schools call it in because we had delays due to the snow. So for competitions, even some of the online ones, will have strict guidelines. Like if you're doing mustaches, you can't have any other facial hair. So if you have like a goatee and a mustache, then it'll put you like in a partial beard for a musketeer. Also, you cannot use the hair beyond the corner of your mouth, and they usually have some kind of size limit, like 3/4 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch. I think World's is 1.5 centimeters. So if you're starting to grow a mustache now, what I would recommend is let it all grow until you set some kind of limit. Like I'm going to grow it for 9 months and see what it looks like. Let it start to fill in a little bit. So, like I trimmed down here at month 13 and I didn't necessarily get it over here. So this side's a little thicker. So I'm going to try to grow this back out before September, stop trimming it to see if I can get it to fill in. So if you trim something right now, you may regret it later. So a minor trim now could be a major regret later. So I say let it grow. And if you're starting fresh, I recommend growing a beard. Grow a beard out for 5-6 months. Do you find one side of your epic mustache, thank you, grows thicker? How do you combat that? Really struggling. So yes. So not only does one side, so I think it's this side. I'm looking in a mirror and then this, of course, reverses it. I think it's this side. The hairs aren't as thick this way, but they're longer together for a farther distance. Now, this side as well is a little bit thicker, but the hairs are shorter. So when I do like a natural mustache, I get hairs over here that pop out a little bit early and some long ones. How do I combat it? a little bit of brushing if I'm doing natural, but I can hide it very well with wax. So that's how I kind of do it. Now, what I would recommend is if you want to even them up, and I do it when I put wax in, but shape it, right? And shape it the same way kind of for like 3 to 4, 5 days, and look and see if it's still doing the same thing out at the end. It fell out once. Oh, wearing a mask, yeah. So the best way to take care of your mustache, and I'll never tell you must do this, but I'll tell you how I did it. I treated my mustache just like I did my beard. I used to have a beard, down to here. When I got out of the Army in 2005, it just started growing facial hair, and about every 3 months it'd get dry and itchy, and I'd shave it off. Then I'd grow it back. So that went on for about 13 years. And what I was using was just head shampoo. I thought, I'll use an anti-dandruff shampoo. I used it in the beard, but it still dried the skin out. Now, some people can't use like a beard care products because their skin is still sensitive. But I use, and still to this day, I got a little man cabinet over here. I call it my he shed. I use a beard shampoo still on my mustache. I haven't washed my face with soap since 2018. So I use a beard shampoo. It just takes a little bit. You rub it in, lather it up. It's really well. And then one of the other things I do is a beard oil. So shake it up, get your little eyedropper, and then you put a couple of drops, say, on the inside of one finger. For a mustache, you really don't need a whole bunch. Even when I had a beard down to here, I'd use half a dropper. The key is rub your hands together, and I would rub it in at the base of the hair and then run it out. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to coat it. You're trying to keep those hairs healthy. I've also used, let me see if I can grab a can real quick. This is what's called a dry oil beard balm. There's different beard butters and beard balms, and this Kenya Handlebar has a dry oil beard balm. It's a leave-in conditioner. So what it does is when you put it in your hair, it's got a tiny bit of beeswax, and as you can see, I've used this quite a lot. This is their temperance. It doesn't have an aroma in case you don't want coffee or you don't want that peppermint. But you put that in on the top of the hair, then run the brush through. And what it does is it keeps your facial hair healthy throughout the day. The biggest things that'll mess up facial hair is if it dries out, right? If it doesn't get enough oil. Whatever oil you use, you want to look for like 7 to 9 different oils in it, essential and premium. Based on that mixture, they will fall on different areas of the hair. So you don't want all the oil collecting just at the bottom. You don't want all of it just up at the top. You kind of want to spread over evenly and protects it. If the hair dries out, it can then split at the end. And then if that's not taken care of, that split will make its way all the way down the shaft and you got a dead hair and it's not going to grow. Now, as you're growing facial hair, it's common. I lose a couple of hairs every time I go through and shape my mustache. I was losing hair every time. Shedding is completely normal. So if you're losing, I don't know, between 3 and 8 hairs, it's not a big deal. But if you're working on trying to brush your beard and all of a sudden you're pulling out 20, 30 different hairs, you got to stop and, try to figure out what's going on. Any other questions? That was a good question. I have an assortment of, like mustache combs. What I started off with in the very beginning was a long comb from my hair clipper set. And, one side the bristles were wide and one side they were really tight, but it was so long and trying to get it in there to spread the wax, it was a pain in the butt. So I got this little Cant comb. I think Kenya Handlebar has them. I've got a metal one from Death Grip. I'll just grab a couple of these to show you. Good thing my he shed's right here, right? So this one I'm pretty excited about. This is a Savvy Jack pocket comb, or I think you call it a pocket comb lite. For me, when I use this in my mustache, it feels like it's massaging it, but it'll go right in your pocket. I also have this one from Grooming. It's a sapling comb. The cool thing about Grooming is for most of their products, when you buy something, it equates out to how many trees they'll plant. So this, I think, equals 1 tree they'll plant. If you buy one of their larger products, then it's like 2 trees. So that's really cool, but it's got the comb, the comb on one side and a brush on the other. Where I like this is when I'm using the smaller comb and I have to do like this and look in the mirror, give you guys the perspective I would see in the mirror. I can't see what I'm doing because I'm right-handed. So with this guy, I can put tension on and I can see where I'm combing through. So this has come in handy. Another one I have that I think is really cool is a Savage Act Tomahawk with tapered end. So you have the comb part and you have the brush part, but this tapered part right here, when I take my mustache out, make it kind of like an English, put a little bit of wax on here, and then I can put the end of the mustache in, roll it around here and roll it all the way up. And I've got a video on my Instagram feed if you check it out. Hold it in like this for about 10 seconds and then slide it out of the mustache, and the mustache kind of uncurls and snaps into this open C. So it has sped up some of that process for combs. This was a beard comb I have. Wood. Some recommend wood, and the reason is as you're running it through, it doesn't generate static, because nothing's more frustrating when you're like, okay, I got to go to work, and you're running the comb through, and you pull it loose, and it's just sticking way out. So that can be very, very frustrating. Any other questions? Firehouse, what's going on, Firehouse? Just talking about some different stuff. So as I was saying before, I don't rate the waxes I use. Hello, hola. On like a 1, 2, 3 through 10 or whatever. It's based on the mustache that I make. So as I mentioned earlier, Two Deuces is a guy I follow. Beautiful big mustache. He's a firefighter. When I take the Firehouse mustache wax, I use their dark, and I bring it down and I do these close curls, and I named it the Deuces, and he was super excited. I wound up competing in the West Coast Classic with the Deuces, and I took first place for the style category, so that was pretty cool. Today, this was the Can You Handlebar primary and secondary. This one's a medium wax, and this one is just strong wax. I use the medium to shape, and then I use this to kind of lock it in. So the fastest way to get wax out is oil. So mustache wax is generally oil soluble. So if you're doing your general maintenance in the morning, you're getting ready and you put beard oil all into your mustache and then you go to put wax in, it's going to prohibit it from really getting stiff. It's going to start to break it down and make it pasty, right? And you don't want it pasty because it'll sag, especially if you get some length on it, right? Can't go outside on a windy day. So when I do my mustache, it's dry, it's free of beard oils, it's free of beard balms, beard butters. I brush it out, let it set to air dry, and then I start going through. But like at the end of the day, it's probably better if you take it out. You don't want to leave it in too long. It could stunt growth. I do it every now and then because when I get like a new wax, I've gotten wax sent to me. Hey, can you test this out and tell us what you think? And so I'll put it in, and one of my tests is, does it survive the night? And I found a way to kind of sleep like this. Probably wouldn't last, but I found a way that I can put the pillow under my head, and if I've got a loop, when I wake up in the morning, does it hold its general shape? And if it does, then I like to give it a thumbs up. But if it's split and all over the end and it's kind of gotten pasty, then I don't tend to care for it. So you can put beard oil in, and right now Death Grip is selling what they call a wax remover. It's a citrusy beard oil. Is there anything specifically to look for when buying new waxes? So for me, it's hard to say. My most experience is with a wax that uses a lot of beeswax, right? So to me, I find it spreads a little easier on my finger. Like Can You Handlebar, Firehouse, it's a lot more wax-like, right? But Death Grip and some of the others have a pine resin in it. So it's a little more sticky. So I had to learn how to just adapt a little bit. And once I figured out, okay, instead of doing it this way, I do it this way, I can get really good results. It's more of a preference. Now, natural ingredients. If you check out Can You Handlebar, their website, they have a beard mentor section, and they talk about a lot of different things. And I know, and I hate to do this, I'm not trying to badmouth them. This is the first wax I ever got, and this was a gift to me from a friend at work because I had a little handlebar. But this has some materials in it that I I think while I was using it, I wasn't doing it quite well, and it wasn't sticking very well. And the ingredients in, say, like a Can You Handlebar or a Firehouse are going to be a little different than at least this particular fisticuffs. The Death Grip, a lot of guys use that for like competition, Canadian redneck. So what I would say, any wax you get, it's going to take practice, patience, and repetition, right? So for the whole first year I grew my mustache, I waxed every day, 7 days a week, because I was trying to figure out, how do I do it? How do I do it so that it looks good and it's not taking me 35 minutes because, I still have to go to work. And then I finally found a routine for me, but I changed it up a little bit. Like when I first started, I was doing this. And of course, the mustache only came out to about here and it just did a little hook, right? I was very proud. But as it got longer, it wasn't quite working because as the hair grows, you have to adapt a little bit. So I started doing a pinch and flatten right through here, and then I'd make a curl, a twisted curl. And that worked for a little while, but as this grew out, I was pinching it out here. So to me, I didn't like the way it looked. So I started doing what I called a barrel method, where I'd pinch it and I'd take my hand and I'd form a cone. So I try to make it thicker to thinner. And then I'd start bending it over towards my cheeks. My mustache has a tendency to lean forward. So if I bend it back there and let it set for a little bit, it'll naturally come maybe back to the middle. And then I went back to this method, this flat method here. But the basic thing is practice it. You got to have some patience. And you might be going through it and be like, oh, I'm getting so frustrated. Run a comb through it a couple of times, comb it out, walk away. Don't add more wax. So the big thing with wax is, and most of them will tell you that you've got to warm it, right? You've got to change the consistency. So for like the Can You Handlebar primary, at room temperature, and that's about all you need to start, right? It's not too bad. I can run it through my fingers and it coats through my fingers. So that's pretty good. But you take the strong and it's much stiffer and it's tackier. So if you try to put that in without warming it, what's the best way to wash? Beard oil. Get a beard oil, and then if you don't have like a beard shampoo, maybe some like baby soap, just something that's gentle. What you don't want to do is throw in some cheap head shampoo that is designed to strip oil out of your hair, because you want oil on the skin and the hairs. So the secondary, which is a stronger wax, if I try using it without heating it, my fingers are all slippery right now. And thank you guys all for jumping in here. I love the questions. I love giving feedback. It'll generally always be like my experiences, and I'll tell you how it did with me, and hopefully that helps somebody. But yeah, beard oil. First, you put some beard oil on, maybe about 5 minutes before you go get in the shower. So that's the strong. And if I dig this out, right, just a little bit. Now look at that. See how much tackier that is than that last one? So if I gob this up and just slam it into my mustache, my fingers are going to stick to the hairs. And I did it in the beginning because I was like, "Arr," and I yanked out some hairs. So what they recommend is that you warm it somehow. Get it to where it's like shiny. And I use a hair dryer over the top on low until the wax is a little bit shiny. There's other techniques. I used to set it on top of my coffee pot on where the water goes with a paper towel under it for about 20 minutes. But as the wax got down low and I wasn't paying attention, it liquefied it. And once the wax is liquid, it clumps up on your fingers. It'll clump up in your mustache, and it's a bad time. So where I was going with that is during your routine and you're putting the wax in, and if you're getting frustrated, run the comb through a couple of times and take a step back. Give it a couple minutes. Just maybe give it a basic shape. Leave it alone. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let the wax come more back towards that room temperature consistency where it's a little firmer. Because if you add more wax on, it's not allowing that wax to get to that room temperature consistency. So you're it might stick to your fingers versus sticking to the hairs. You might have a couple hairs sticking out. So comb it, walk away for a little bit, come back and try again. Worst come to worst, like the longest for me was One day I was getting ready for a competition, 3 hours, because I was like dead set. I had to have it perfect, so I kept adding wax and adding wax and adding wax and adding wax, and it just would not firm up. And I'd try to comb it out, and then I'd immediately throw wax in, and my brain shut off. And if I had just stopped, washed out, the 10 pounds of wax I put in it, and then let it dry and start over, I think I would have had a better time. Make sure your hands are clean with light waxes, medium waxes. Excuse me. You can get away with, say, a paper towel. But once you get into these stronger waxes, you probably want to use like a shop rag or a regular towel. Nothing fuzzy. And the reason I say that is I had Death Grip Extra Strength. And when you kiss the mustache stick in my mouth, I would say a little bit, and then probably the other person would get it. You got to like hold it up, I guess. It's the same with drinking. So drinking or eating, typically what I'll do is this hand will hold my McDoubles. I eat like a 15-year-old. This hand will make pincers, I guess. Go in, hold it up, and then I can eat. And once I get the burger, the drink, or whatever right about here, the hair will fall over the top, and I won't get it in my mouth. It's a little harder to do when you're driving, so I have to get in the straightaway. It's dangerous. I probably shouldn't be doing it. But I had some Death Grip Extra Strength. It was a little bit tacky, and so I grabbed a paper towel. I did like this, and I was shaping my mustache, and as I got my hand down here, just paper towel fuzz all over here. So it was a little frustrating. Make sure your hands are clean. I say this when shaping. So like if this hand, if I got wax on it, this hand needs to be clean, and I'll spread it. Then I wipe the fingers off. Why? If you have a residual sticky tack or sticky wax, and say you're holding here, right? And I'm going through and I'm shaping like this, and I'm like, oh, it looks so beautiful. But this hand had a bunch of wax. As soon as I go to let loose, it's already stuck here, and it'll pull the mustache apart. It can be super frustrating, especially when you're like, oh, it looks really, really good. I'm about ready to take a selfie, and then other questions? I love taking questions. Once again, shout out to Topher and the Marine Rapper. They didn't have to share my reel out, and they did, and I was super excited, like getting asked to prom. So it was really cool. Love them for that. If you haven't checked out their song, The Patriot, jump over there and check it out. They've got it on their page. You can get it from iTunes. I think I paid 99 cents for it, and it's an amazing, awesome song. So yeah, I mean, if you're starting to grow beard hair, facial hair, mustache, what have you, I always say give it 3 weeks before you make any change. Because you may brush it differently today than you did yesterday. You may shape it differently, and today you got a long hair, so you cut it off and you shape tomorrow, but it's a little bit different. Now this side's a little shorter, so you have to cut this side. Yeah, when I had one in 2018, I tried to trim it myself, and I tried holding it and come through with the hair clippers, and I shaved off, half of it. And this side was a little bit longer, so I did a regrow. But if you're going to regrow it, make a commitment to yourself. You're not going to do anything to it other than, train it. And how much weight can it hold now? The mustache, I don't know. I did it up and put Christmas decorations in it. I have some that went in my beard. I'm hoping... So one of my goals was I've kind of got enough length. I wanted to take the top off of one of the mustache wax tins and roll it up, right? And then get it to stay here like this and do the other side. And I got them up there. I had the length, and I was getting it ready, and I was like, yeah. And then I went to let go to grab, get the camera ready, and even just the weight of the lid pulled it a little bit, and it sagged, and I was like, all right, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to have a photo of the can over here and one can up here just looking all goofy. So I held the cans behind and said, look, I was going to do it. So my buddy Two Deuces, whose mustache goes like all the way up to here, he was able to do it, right? And so he posted a photo. He's like, I beat you to it. So I, congratulated him. It was pretty awesome. He's got an epic mustache. He's a firefighter too. So do I have any more questions? This was just a little impromptu. Happy Monday to everybody. Thank you so much to Topher and the Marine Rapper. Thank you to Death Grip. I'm not sure if their message to Topher saying, hey man, this guy's a huge fan, it would mean the world if you give him a comment. And the next thing I know, I'm featured on both of their pages. So it was pretty awesome. I saw Firehouse, Mustache Wax, jump in here. Great husband and wife duo, I think out of Mississippi, John and Christine. Great people. It's amazing wax. I've used the dark, the tacky, and the light. I have to say right now, my favorite is the dark. It'll give my mustache somewhat of a bronze tint. Today, this mustache, which I have named the Patriot, in honor of the song in which I did my reel and they shared it out. Today, I use the Can You Handlebar primary and secondary. These are good waxes. I mean, they're all good waxes. Yesterday, I used Death Grip Sudden Death for that mustache yesterday. I've got some Twisted Mustache. I've got some Savvy Jack. So, I mean, I just based on the different mustache I'm going to be making, I'll grab, a different wax. So, if there's no more questions, I'd like to say thank you again all for jumping in. Anybody who's watching this a little bit later, thank you much for watching the replay. I always try to be me and I try to be engaging. So if I didn't answer your question or if you have a question after, send me a message. I love the likes, the follows. You'll get your Death Grip. Can't wait to see how it holds. So if you've never used Death Grip before, they recommend you heat it up before you apply. And then as you're getting it through, maybe heat it a little bit before you run the comb through. Do you know if you need to avoid some food, don't change the color of your mustache like coffee or cola? As far as I know, the only thing I've heard is if you're a smoker, that the exhaling, is it similar? No, because Can You Handlebar is more of a wax base, and then Death Grip is a pine resin, I believe. So what I've heard is smoking, because of the tar and all that, it can get into the hairs here. And that's another thing, is when you wax, you have to be prepared for the hairs right here to get a little bit looser just because of your breathing. So every now, throughout the day, I'm always pinching through here to fix it back up. As far as foods, Can You Handlebar Beard Mentor section has a list of dietary things they think can help that are good for your body. Drink lots of water. At the moment, I only have the beard wax. Oh, yeah. So if you got the Death Grip wax, and let me show that to you. So this is Sudden Death. It says Sudden Death. This is their Death Grip wax. So this one, you need to heat up with a hairdryer or something to soften it. When you apply it, before you run something through to comb it, they recommend you hit it up with a little bit of low heat just to soften it. I don't have a diffuser, so I have to hold my hairbrush way back here, or hairdryer. So yeah, if you put it in, you'll notice it sticks. I would also recommend keeping your hands clean. Be prepared to clean a little more often because it's a good sticky. And once you put it in, it holds pretty well. So you change that room temperature consistency with a heat source. And then when it comes back to room temperature, here, I'll even show you. So for those of you still on, I'm not trying to go super long. This is Sudden Death, no heat, room temperature wax, right? I'm going to take out a little bit. And that's what they recommend, about a pea size, right? So when I first put it in my fingers, you can see it's tacky. But I changed the consistency just by warming it between my fingers. And now you can see it's not as sticky because it's not at room temperature. Put that in, let it set for a little bit, and then I'll go back through, dig out a little bit more, and keep it that sticky and put it in. And that works really well for me. So let me clean off my fingers. I don't want to contaminate it. I will grab the Death Grip. And they usually send like a pick in there. So you can see a little bit, the color's just a little bit different. So, oh yeah. It's a little bit harder to get it out because I have not warmed it. What makes it stronger? More beeswax? I think it's more or less the formula. All right, so now you can see that's the, what I call the extra strength, right? And it's still, I mean, look at that. So you can see that's different. And if you're not heating that up, I could probably do this enough and then run it through my mustache. But as I'm putting more in, look at that. It's still really sticky. So, you know, it's for serious mustaches. That's the disclaimer on their website. So definitely heat it up. What makes it stronger? More beeswax. There's different formulas out there for, I think, the hold they're trying to achieve. Firehouse wax is a great wax. I think they specialize in it holding up in heat and humidity. I'm super impressed with their light wax. You can see, look at that. That's how it still coated my finger. So, you know, be prepared to wash your hands a little bit. It's an amazing wax. The Death Grip, extra strong. But like Firehouse, their light wax to me was amazing. I almost made my unicorn. I call it my unicorn. Oh yeah, hands are still sticky. When I put some wax in, I always try to do this one where I get it out and then just a little bend up at the end, but it goes from thick to thinner out to the end, and it's almost like a barrel. So sticky my hairs from the mustache will fall off. So if you're careful, now I'm not trying to scare you, but I was using wax, one particular wax for like a long time, so I was so used to it. So when I transitioned to the Death Grip, I tried to apply the same styling, shaping technique, and it's not the same. You heat it up with a hairdryer, get it soft, and then it's very pliable, and you put it in, but it goes back to that hard, sticky relatively quick. So, you know, I always put some wax in, then I'll run a comb through to spread it, and then I'll shape it a little bit and let it sit. Well, this, once you kind of get it in, you may want to take a hairdryer and your comb or your brush, however you're going to do it, and just warm it just enough that you can put it through. So I would also recommend trying to get the hairs as much in line with that shape you think you're going to take. Because if they're all like this, and you put a bunch of wax over top of them and lock them in like this, and then you try to jam a comb in there, and it's, you know, you could run the risk of yanking some out. But it's a good wax. There's lots of guys use it, and they post videos on how they do it, and they make it look so easy. So for me, it was a change up to go from what I was used to using something with a pine resin or pine tar. Any other questions? This is great. I love answering questions. So, and you know, giving some shout outs. Any more? All right, let me run down through the list real quick of quick shout outs. First, all of you, thank you so much for the likes, the follows, the comments, tuning in to me rambling about my mustache for I don't even know how long we've been on here. To Kenya Handlebar, their primary and secondary, which I used today. Topher and the Marine Rapper and their song, The Patriot, which I used in my reel, which they shared out to a combined audience of like 200,000. So, saw the wax shampoo. Yeah, the beard shampoo. Oh, are you talking about Death Grip? Yeah, Death Grip is coming out with it's a wax remover, which any beard oil can be used as a wax softener to remove it. Love the new look, makes me want to go and try new shit. Yeah, that was another thing for me. So I use a little bit of beard oil when I use really strong wax, Barbarian. But I'm getting some of the Death Grip stuff. I'm going to put it in. It's supposed to be real citrusy. So one of the things I try to do is I don't want to be defined by just one mustache. So I try to change it up a little bit. And as I was mentioning before, I use a different wax for different styles. You know, there's this one I feel really good using the Kenya Handlebar products. I've got another one. It's a big flat Imperial that comes up. I feel really good about using the wax, the Kenya Handlebar. The Deuces Firehouse wax. Love their dark. I've got another one where I won the nationals with is using Sudden Death. And it's almost, I call it like a teardrop. So thick to thin to, open curls. And I love doing that with Sudden Death. There's another one I do that's got rounder, larger, thinner bars. I'll use Savvy Jack for that. I've got another mustache that's a little bit thinner that comes out almost like an English, but I have it flat. I use Twisted Mustache for that. So thank you, Topher, the Marine Rapper, sharing me out, 200,000 followers of theirs. Exposure for me. I've gotten a lot of follows, a lot of likes. I really appreciate it. So in honor of that, I did my mustache up like this using my Kenya Handlebar stuff. And if I ever make this again, I'm going to call it The Patriot after their song. So thank all of you guys for the follows, the likes, the comments, the joining my ramblings, the questions. I will always try to just be me and speak to my experiences. So I'm not an expert. I've just done a lot. Don't forget, it's practice, patience, and repetition. And if all else fails, take a step back. Everybody gets frustrated. I've grabbed the scissors and said, I don't think I can do this anymore. You know, when I was at like month 6. Be careful of the hairs right around here. If you're just starting to grow a mustache, it's real tempting to pull those in because it'll make your mustache look thicker. Problem is if you wax and it looks good like this, but you get to work and you go to eat your lunch or you yawn, that tension will pull the mustache apart. So I started like lifting, you know, once I grouped it, I take a comb, anything that had tension, I'd pull it out. It looked a little bit thinner in the beginning, but in the long run, it worked out well. So for me. So, I mean, I could go on until 5 in the morning talking about different stuff, but I thought I'd just do a real quick one. This is Mustache Talk episode 8, I think. I have some other ones. I think one is only on YouTube because it was longer than the 15 minutes you were allowed for a long video on Instagram. And that's when I started doing the live ones because I could talk until 5 in the morning and it'll save it. So thank you all. I am Bob, and this is Elliot Norris, my mustache. Yes, I did name my mustache Elliot Norris. The baby of Chuck Norris and Sam Elliott would have been my mustache. So anyways, thank you guys again for tuning in. I'm Bob. This is Elliot Norris, my mustache. You have a wonderfully bearded day. One question, where do you start the mustache? Do you mean where do I start in my shaping process? So once I have it combed and kind of pull it out, I start putting the wax here and I go out. That way I can come back through later with the comb. I think some of them, they'll recommend you get wax on both and push this way to get it away from your mouth. Ideally, the more you train it, the easier it becomes. So for me, the mustache, if you can kind of see it, I don't go past the corner of my mouth because I'm trying to stay within national or world standards. I don't want any hair beyond the corner of my mouth or the upper lip, bottom of the upper lip. So all good questions. Thank you guys. No, I mean, where are the hairs growing? So if I can get in here. So mine, you know, all the way through here, you can see these are a little bit shorter. I'm trying to grow them out again. Give you an up look. So I don't use anything from here down. And right now, some of these I'm not quite using because only the upper lip. That's normally the big competition rules. You cannot be using the hair down here. There's some beautiful, what looks like really full mustaches, but if they were to compete and be prejudged, they'd be put into partial beards. Mustache categories normally also, you're not allowed any other facial hair. So it's just the mustache. And they have rules too, like styled categories, usually like handlebar, that kind of stuff. You're supposed to use styling aids. But if you get into natural, you can use beard oil for maintenance or a beard balm, but if you use too much and it looks oily or greasy, you get docked points. You can use like a hair dryer. I used rollers. See if I can grab a set. And I have, if you're curious, I have videos, but I have little ones. Then these are the next step up, my big blue ones. And then I graduated to the green ones. And then the latest ones, and I think there's one more size above these, are my big pinks. So the big pink ones are the ones I use for the West Coast Classic Natural. And they had a rule that you could not have a closed loop on your natural mustache. And these were giving me a closed loop. You can see the size difference, right? So I had put it in, and I have a little technique. I back roll it, rotate it, let it sit for an hour, and then I put it on top. I front roll it, rotate it, let it sit for about 20, 30 minutes. But what it does is the bigger the roller, the more that it doesn't close, it starts to open up. So when I bring it out, I run the brush through and it fans it out so it keeps it kind of open. This will keep it more closer to my nose, I guess. Then I have these really small ones that are like a 1/2 inch. They keep it in a closed loop. So I don't know if anybody's interested in that, but I do have videos. So thank you all for the questions. Barbarian Beard, thank you again. I am Bob, and this is Elliot Norris, my mustache. Don't worry, lap swimmer 1977. You can always go back and watch the replay. And if you have any questions, either leave them in the comments or send me a direct message. You guys have a wonderfully bearded day. Bye-bye, everybody.